You're listening to Tripod, the Tricycle Creative podcast, produced for anyone interested in being a better digital and content marketer. Host Ross Erosion is a marketing coach, content creator, and entrepreneur who brings you helpful tips, social media updates, inspiring interviews, and his own unique perspective on how to tell your story and grow your business. So sit back, relax, and let's get pedaling.
It is June 2020. And what I thought I would attempt to start doing, what a non-committal start that is, by the way, attempt to start doing. Okay, what I'd like to start doing is at the end of every month, doing a recap, what I am calling a rewind. Whoa, so really just so clever on my part. A rewind every month and bring you the three most important, interesting, or impactful stories from marketing. So today, I am going to be sharing with you those three stories. And we're going to start with email, right? So email, everyone has it. Again, that's the most mind-blowing statement you've ever heard. Everyone has email. Holy crap, that's amazing. Yeah, but what we're talking about now is a radical new approach to email from the company Basecamp. So the platform's called Hey. And it's a new email provider that is created by the Basecamp co-founder and CTO, David Heinemeier Hansen. Now, you may not be familiar with Basecamp. Basecamp is a really great collaboration, project management system platform. I used it a lot in the nonprofit world. I used it a lot in the for-profit world. They do a lot of things and they pride themselves on simplicity. Almost, I don't want to say to a fault, but they are aggressively simple. Like they know that there are features missing, but they intentionally leave them out. And they are always looking at ways to keep the platform super simple. So this new email platform, Hey, the Basecamp co-founder, CTO, David, has been working on it, he says, for 2 years with co-founder Jason Fried. I think it's Fried, F-R-I-E-D. Jason wrote a fantastic book, P.S., called Rework. And it's a real quick read. It's a really fun read. Recommend it for sure. Rework by Jason Fried. So here's the thing, right? He also, and I guess they combined, have really hated this email, I guess you could say probably monopoly, if you will, but the way that email is manipulated from a privacy standpoint. And even really been vehemently vocal about privacy as a whole, as a topic. And in fact, Basecamp in 2018 announced that they were going to be a Facebook-free business. No ads, no presence on Facebook, and no Facebook-based login for Basecamp or any of their other services. So they really walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to privacy. And I think maybe more specifically, privacy as it relates to Facebook. So let's talk about Hey. Again, that's the email platform. It's called Hey, Hey, in case you weren't sure. So first and foremost, you, the email recipient, you will have control over who is allowed to appear in your inbox, which is like, wow, what a foreign concept that is. And it means you get to screen all first-time senders. So the first time someone emails you, you screen that email. I would imagine you get some sort of alert. It seems wrong to equate this to like a Facebook friend request, but it's almost more like a gatekeeper to say, hey, oh, look at that. Hey, that's the platform. Hey, here's the email. Do you want to allow it? So it also protects users from the everyday invasive surveillance tactics. So what I imagine that means is it's going to strip out tracking tools. And they break out from everything, from what I've read in this Fast Company article, which I will share, tripodpodcast.com is where you can get show notes and links. It talks about this idea of something called the feed and the paper trail. So distinct places for emails that are like newsletters and shipping confirmations. It looks like that would go into the feed, and that category requires an opt-in confirmation. They claim, again, in this Fast Company article, a little more pleasant experience to browse it versus Gmail's cluttered promotions tab. Now, I don't use those tabs, but I remember using them, and yeah, they can be a little bit messy. And just as I thought, Hey will strip incoming messages of the tracking tools, known as spy pixels, that have become the common practice in many emails. So they also, from what I'm seeing here, they're going to let you know, not only by stripping them out, they're going to let you know which emails had tracking capabilities tied to it with a little icon to show you, hey, this had some spy pixels in it. We stripped it, but just so you know, they existed here and we pulled them out. This is always a very difficult place for me as a digital marketer, because I think we're going to look back at this era of marketing as really as a golden age, as more and more businesses seem to be going the way of privacy. And this is just one great example with email, the thing that everyone has, everyone uses, and you don't even think about the privacy, I'll say, invasion here. But by stripping it out, digital marketers are going to lose that aspect. Now, I don't know how I want to approach that. Right? I think that there are abuses that can happen. You can abuse the relationship, the email newsletter relationship, whether you have these spy pixels installed or not. I always come back to creating content that is valuable, interesting, and useful to your audience. But we become so reliant as digital marketers on this ability to use the technology to better target or to optimize or to convert. And it seems like that is going away. So it'll be interesting in the next, I would even say, year to see what happens with all of this, because Hey may not be the only platform that goes this way. We've talked about on previous podcasts that Google's talking about stripping away pixels by 2021. These mechanisms are going away for digital marketers, and you may then become more of content marketers than maybe digital technology marketers. It'll be very interesting. Now, one last point on Hey. You've probably been thinking, wow, this sounds really cool. I don't like my privacy being invaded. Well, just like Basecamp put their money where their mouth is by making themselves a no or a Facebook free business, it's now time for you to put the money where your mouth is, because Hey will not be free. Hey will cost $99 a year. And currently you have to apply. I'll put a link again in the show notes. So how much is it worth to you? How much is your privacy worth to you? Is it worth less than $10 a month? I guess we'll find out. I gotta say, June was one hell of a month for me to start this rewind concept, because we had a lot happen in June 2020. The biggest thing, the biggest thing is a really actually hard statement to justify in June 2020 amid pandemic, societal, racial unrest, and riots. But one thing that happened, let me put it that way, is the issue of fact-checking on social media. And this really blew up when Twitter fact-checked Donald Trump. So in June, Twitter started flagging President Donald Trump's tweets for false information. And what they claim prompted this to finally break this. So Twitter claims they were doing this, or said they were doing this, but hadn't rolled it out fully. But the straw that broke the camel's back was a two-tweet I'm reading this from an article from Wired, so this is hard. Two-tweet tirade. That should be like a broadcast test right there. 2-tweet tirade about the supposed dangers of expanding vote by mail during coronavirus pandemic. Something that, I don't know, the president and Vice President Pence may or may not have done themselves, but somehow this is a really dangerous, terrible thing to be doing. Well, later that evening, when those tweets went out, Twitter added a note to the bottom of those tweets. And it came by the way of big exclamation mark and a message reading, "Get the facts about mail-in ballots," which connected it to a fact check like stream, if you will. And it said, Trump makes unsubstantiated claim that mail-in ballots will lead to voter fraud. Read a very bold heading. And beneath it came more bullet points about vote by mail, followed by curated feed of tweets that picked apart President Donald Trump's various recent claims about it. Now, most of the time, for tweets that Twitter considers dangerously misleading or hateful, they respond with deletion. That happened recently, again, according to this article that I will share from Wired, with the Venezuelan president. It says presidents of Brazil and Venezuela that promoted quack medicine. So things that are outrightly false and dangerous. Looks like Twitter just classified this as just false, not necessarily in the dangerous category yet, but this has been escalating all June. And what happened after this Twitter fact check was a response by the president, and that was for what's being colloquially called the social media executive order. And this is section, let's see, I'm looking at this. Section 7, the purposes of the order. Now, I'm no lawyer. This may shock you to find out. The term online platform means any website or application that allows users to create and share content or engage in social networking or any general search engine. So what the hell is the social media executive order all about? Well, it's an effort to undo what is called the Common Decency Act, Section 230. And what that says is that sites were free to moderate their users and not be classified as publishers of the content. A designation could open the site up to lawsuits. So what that essentially meant was if you owned a site and someone posted something in the comments, that you were not classified or held accountable for the things that were posted in the comments. Well, this is an effort, this social media executive order, to undo that, to untangle those things and to make platforms liable for that type of behavior on their sites, right? So according to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Common Decency Act, Section 230, called CDA 230 here, also allows its legal shield to bloggers who act as intermediaries by hosting comments on their blog. So just like I said, under the law, bloggers are not liable for comments left by readers, the work of guest bloggers, tips sent via email, or information received through RSS feeds. The legal protection can still hold even if a blogger is aware of the objectionable content or makes editorial judgments. So they are protected from that type of content. From, again, blog comments, outside sources, maybe writing a guest piece, doing sending things in. They had protection, right? That's what this social media executive order is trying to undo. Now, one thing that I've asked through this, and maybe you're curious about, this is all boiled up and blown up on Twitter, right? It's President Trump's, I guess I'll say proving ground, I don't know, space, where he has a lot of engagement and involvement and tweets. Where's Facebook? Well, Facebook came out in June, once again, and said, we're not going to fact check. Mark Zuckerberg said, I believe strongly that Facebook shouldn't be the arbiter of truth of everything that people say online. I'm just going to let that simmer a little bit, or let that rattle around. Like and I'll be completely honest with you here. I don't know where I don't fully disagree with him there, right? However, we have talked about this numerous times on this show, that these are the playgrounds. Twitter, that's their playground, right? It's not a infringement of First Amendment if they remove things, because guess what? It's their playground. Using that metaphor, if Twitter doesn't want a creepy clown hanging out near the jungle gym on their playground, they're going to have him escorted from the site. I don't know if in that metaphor I may or may not have just compared Donald Trump to that creepy clown, but I don't know. I'll let you infer whether or not that was the case. Now, one other thing that you need to know about Facebook's involvement when it comes to speech and social is that in May, Facebook helped launch something called American Edge. Ooh, American Edge. Is that a new, monthly shaving club? No. It's a lobbying group in DC designed and put together to fight antitrust regulators. So, how convenient. Facebook doesn't really want to get involved in this because they are absolutely looking to the future as a business and not protecting their own self-interest of not getting torn apart a la Microsoft did back in the day, right? Not having Instagram torn from them and WhatsApp torn from them and their ads platform torn apart from them because of maybe a case to be made for monopoly or abuses of privacy and technology and money. Cambridge Analytica. So that's something to know and be aware of in all of this. Now, I will share in the show notes this article. So let's learn a little bit more about American Edge. Now, this is all according to Tony Rahm at the Washington Post. This organization, it aims through a barrage of advertising and other political spending to convince policymakers that Silicon Valley is essential to the U.S. economy and the future of free speech. Now, going back even further, in December, American Edge was actually formed as a nonprofit, and it was only in May it registered an accompanying foundation. And this setup essentially allows it to navigate a thicket of tax laws in such a way that it can raise money, blitz the airwaves with ads, without the obligation of disclosing all of its donors. Many political actors, including a little organization called the NRA, National Rifle Association, similarly operate with the aid of quote-unquote social welfare groups. So I bring all this to you. Again, June was a hell of a month. June 2020, and for that matter, I think everything from, 2020 has just been a kick in the teeth. But June is going to be one that is going to have very interesting long-term cultural and societal things that have occurred. This is one that's in the mix. Is it the biggest? Potentially, no, because these battles have been going on between, I'll say politicians, but really it's Trump and tweets. And we have talked a lot on this show about Facebook and their self-protection. They are out for Facebook. And if your privacy, I think what many would consider the right thing is in that way, then they'll gladly steamroll over it. Now, I should also note that they had many walkouts and protests at the Facebook company in response to Zuckerberg's take here. So this will be interesting to see how this continues to play out. And, maybe this changes your own opinion and how you use Facebook. I would be disingenuous if I didn't sit here and tell you that I have very much an internal struggle with Facebook, to the point where I think very soon I'm going to have to reevaluate what we as an agency, Tricycle Creative, do with Facebook. I don't have the answer to that right now, but I think we need to continue to see how this all plays out. And I think it'll also be interesting to see what more happens with Twitter and Trump. And that brings me to topic number 3 for this episode of Rewind, where we're looking back on June 2020. And I feel like it would be brazen to not talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, I want to be abundantly clear. I don't think this is the place where you go to really dig into this topic, and nor do I think that I am the most equipped host to discuss this topic. But I will tell you that I am a big believer in the cause. And what I'm doing, and by extension my business, we're doing are things to educate myself, right? And find ways that I can be involved, we can be involved, ways that we can make a positive change. And I, of course, encourage you to do the same. But what I want to do is take a second and look at some brands and what brands are doing around or connected to Black Lives Matter, but also the idea of fighting racism, fighting racial prejudice, injustice, and police brutality. Because all these things are kind of in that soup, right? These are all components in June 2020 that make up our culture, are what's happening right now. And maybe soup is the wrong term. I think maybe powder keg is a more appropriate term, but nonetheless. So we start, I think, on a good front with Crayola, right? This is a brand definitely kid-centric. And what they are releasing and creating is a Colors of the World set. So this is going to include 24 new crayons designed to mirror and properly and accurately represent 40 different skin tones. So I think this speaks to representation, right? And that part of, inside of a box, you may only have 3 skin tones or 3 colors that could even remotely be, human skin tone. Let me put it that way, not alien skin tone. So I thought this was a really interesting play, right? Okay, yeah, might not be drastically breaking down the walls, but it's on brand. It's a way that they can show support, show thoughtfulness, show that it's something that is a priority for them. So that Colors of the World set, they will be made available in July in a 24 and 32 count pack, with the 32 count pack being sold exclusively at Walmart. So then we have NASCAR. Well, NASCAR for the month of June has been a pretty wild swing of good and bad. There's a mix there. So first, let's start with the good. We have NASCAR effectively or officially banning the Confederate flag at race events. Then you have NASCAR's Bubba Wallace racing in the Black Lives Matter car. And Wallace was one of the more vocal racers that called for the ban on the Confederate flag. coming, amid the protests, definitely that came up related to, the this is police related death, the murder of George Floyd. So those are the good side, right? Those are good news pieces. You then have the swing of the pendulum with 50 in NASCAR, 50-year-old driver Ray. I'm going to assume this is Ciccarelli, who posted on Facebook that he will not race following the 2020 season. And he connected it to the Confederate flag ban. He later walked it back and was like, "Oh, well, I was retiring at the end of the season, and this just made me make the decision faster." So kind of walked it back. Now, here's the thing though. Ray Ciccarelli, he's not started. He races in the Truck Series and the ARCA Racing Series, which I don't know what that is. Being from North Carolina, I probably should. That might be a cardinal sin, but I have no idea. Well, he has not started any Truck Series event this season. He failed to qualify. He's still listed on NASCAR's entry list. He has 18 career starts dating back to 2017, and he has one top 10 finish, and that was a 9th at Michigan last season. Now, I could not race a truck. I could not race a car. I could not eat those eggs, Sam. I don't know. I couldn't do those things. So I don't want this to be a cruel, mean thing about him. But the reality is he's not a superstar. He's not a star. He is a participant in NASCAR. Okay. So, because I hesitate to say, listen, he's just some little guy, right? He's just some inconsequential person when it comes to this. So who cares what he says? But I don't think that's a healthy narrative across the board, because you know what? Little people, the people who you don't think matter, the inconsequentials, you can come together and you can make a change and an impact. In his case, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, a positive one, but I don't want to downplay and be insulting to him about this. But let me just be very clear. He is not a superstar. I cannot imagine that many Ray Ciccarelli jerseys or cars were sold. So the overwhelming response seems to be aligning with fighting racism, fighting prejudice, the police, and correcting police brutality inside the world, at least I would say, of corporate NASCAR. Now, I think that's an important distinction, because we'll see what happens when and if NASCAR's, or when or if any sport's able to come back, what happens with the fan bases. There has always been, or maybe not, for the last several years, there has been a disconnect between, I think, the fans of NASCAR and the corporate structure of NASCAR and the image. So it'll be an interesting thing to kind of track when and if NASCAR is able to pick back up again. So now we have Starbucks going from gasoline to caffeine. Starbucks. So they said in an internal memo in June that baristas could not wear Black Lives Matter shirts. But then, relatively quickly, they reversed their stance, saying that they can wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts or a pin, and they even worked and created some branded t-shirt designs that they delivered to stores and employees. So they also had this kind of policy reversal, if you will, probably based off of the frustration, outrage, and probably disbelief, not only just from the public at large, but also from their employees. Starbucks, on a side note, during all of the pandemic stuff that's been going on way past June of 2020, they are reevaluating a lot of parts of their business model. So they may very well shrink. There's a Starbucks on every corner across from the Starbucks on the other corner. You may not see that be the case so much in the coming years. Definitely hit pretty hard from the pandemic. Now, the last brand I wanted to touch on was Ben and Jerry's. So we go from gasoline to caffeine to ice cream. Ben and Jerry's does not pull any punches. You'd think for an ice cream company that would be soft and sugary, but wrong. No. Ben and Jerry's statement on their website was just baller. I don't know any other way to explain it. They kept it 100 in the most real way. And I will link to that again in our show notes, tripodpodcast.com. You'll be able to check it out there. But here are I say highlights. It was incredibly hard to pick out quote unquote highlights because the whole thing is so good. So I do encourage you to read it. But they start with, we must dismantle white supremacy. Silence is not an option. I mean, they are coming out swinging haymakers. You are not confused about where they stand. And they continue, it says, we have to speak out. We have to stand together with the victims of murder, marginalization, and repression because of their skin color, and with those who seek justice through protests across our country. We have to say his name, George Floyd. I mean, when you read this, it is powerful. It is truly powerful. And it continues. The murder of George Floyd was the result of inhuman police brutality that is perpetrated by a culture of white supremacy. What happened to George Floyd was not the result of a bad apple. It was the predictable consequence of a racist and prejudiced system and culture that has treated black bodies as the enemy from the beginning. What happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis is the fruit born of toxic seeds planted on the shores of our country in Jamestown in 1619, when the first enslaved men and women arrived on this continent. Floyd is the latest in a long list of names that stretches back to that time and that shore. Some of those names that we know: Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Oscar Grant, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King Jr. Most we don't. I mean, it's chilling and it is powerful and it is all out there. There is no question where Ben and Jerry's stands on this issue, and they really, I think, got the gold star when it comes to speaking out about this issue. And I've done blog posts about this. I call kind of this giving aspect that corporate philanthropy and businesses who get involved in charities, it is okay for it to also be a somewhat strategic move. A 90-10 and 80-20 where 80% of it, 90% of it is philanthropic and making an impact. But understandably, if you're a business, you're looking for it to have some residual benefit, even if it's purely brand affinity, brand feel good, right? I think Ben and Jerry's is unapologetic about this is the way we feel. And this is the other thing I loved about their kind of press release, or their statement on it. They outlined action. They outlined 4 things, and I'm going to read these to you. First, we, Ben and Jerry's, call upon President Trump, elected officials, and political parties to commit our nation to a formal process of healing and reconciliation. Second, we call upon the Congress to pass H.R. 40, legislation that would create a commission to study the effects of slavery and discrimination from 1690 to the present and recommend appropriate remedies. Third, we support Floyd's family's call to create a national task force that would draft bipartisan legislation aimed at ending racial violence and increasing police accountability. And finally, we call on the Department of Justice to reinvigorate its Civil Rights Division as a staunch defender of the rights of Black and brown people. Powerful stuff from Ben & Jerry's. Really, really powerful stuff. Now, I want to take a second, just talk a little bit about me personally. It's the subject I know best. I've struggled with how to talk about this, or if to talk about this. And I think that the statement that keeps coming back is, or the sentiment, if you will, is that silence speaks volumes. And for me, I think that as a white male in America, or as a non-Black or African-American person, you don't necessarily understand this issue as much. And with that, I want to say that is okay, right? That's okay. Not knowing about it is okay. But what's not okay is not speaking up or not trying to educate yourself on the issue. That's the bigger failure. Is if you don't speak up or say that you are support these measures, right? As a business or even as an individual. Now, obviously, with a business, it's a lot more complex. There's a lot more levels of complexity there. And as an entrepreneur, that's a decision at the end of the day that you have to make. And I'm not going to sit here and lie. It is hard. It is incredibly hard. But I have said it a billion times on this podcast. If you're not doing something your way, then why the hell are you even in business and doing it? If you want to do something someone else's way, go get a job, a cushy, stable corporate job where someone else will gladly tell you what to say and how to do it, and you can do that. That's not why we do this. That's not why we're entrepreneurs. That's not why we're business owners. We are passionate about a product or service, or even as nonprofits, as some cause. We're passionate about this. So don't be afraid to speak up. And I would also say, don't be afraid to speak to your ignorance. I do not know as much about this subject as I wish I did. But the difference is I'm trying to fix that. Every day I'm trying to learn more. And let me tell you what I'm doing. And by extension, here are some resources that you can check out. So first, I have really found a lot of value and had my eyes opened, or maybe my ears opened more appropriately for this, a million times by the 1619 podcast by the New York Times. It's free. All it requires are your ears and your attention. And I'm telling you, it will go a long way to educate you on just the issue of slavery and racism on a whole. 1619 podcast. It's created and produced by the New York Times, and it is 100% free. So you can check that out wherever you get your podcast. I also have subscribed to the Anti-Racism Daily. And give me 1 second here. I want to give you the proper URL. It is that easy. Antiracismdaily.com. It is free, but it's open to donation. You can donate. It is a daily email that you get talking about, they've put the work in, so let me do it let me use what they provided. It's your daily reminder to dismantle white supremacy. I couldn't say it any better than that. So it's an email You get it in your inbox, and it is incredibly informational, full of resources. It's a fantastic resource. So Anti-Racism Daily. Now, I also am making here in Austin, Texas, a monthly donation to a group called Notly. And they are found online at wearenotly.com. And what they do is they provide knowledge, collaboration, and capital for the social impact community. Now, they are not specifically and solely tied to the issues from June 2020 being racism and police brutality. However, as I mentioned before, the soup, those are absolutely very real issues that they do tackle in a number of different ways. Helping minority business owners and leaders and providing free educational resources. So as a business, this is something that really spoke to me, something I could be involved with, that really kind of moves the needle for minority, Black, African American owners, businesses, individuals to get resources and help that maybe otherwise they would not be able to get. And the last resource that I want to bring to you that you can also check out is something called Campaign Zero, and you can find them online at joincampaignzero.org. And what they are is an organization that is very specifically working towards ending police violence in America. And they have a fantastic 10-point plan based around just these really broken policies and systems of policing. So again, that's Campaign Zero. The links to all of these will be in the show notes, and I hope that you check out any one of these resources. If there's a resource that you found particular value in, I would love for you to share it with us. We are on every social media platform at Hello Tricycle. You can also drop it in the captions on the show notes at tripodpodcast.com. So there it is. This is episode 1 of Rewind, when we looked back at June 2020. I look forward to seeing you, or I guess talking at you, in 1 month's time when we break down July 2020. That's my birthday month, by the way. So, listen, my birthday's not gonna make it into one of the 3 big stories, topics of interest, importance, or intrigue for the month. But I will certainly come to you with some really great stories that you need to be aware of. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you like this episode or like our podcast at all, love it if you would leave us a review. Definitely helps us be discovered by more people. And share episodes. If you found this episode to be particularly insightful, interesting, or entertaining, please share it with your friends. It's really appreciated, and we thank you, and we being me, see you next time. And as always, I encourage you to keep pedaling.
Thanks for listening to Tripod. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Show notes can be found at tripodpodcast.com. Connect with Tricycle Creative on social media at Hello Tricycle, and learn more about how we can help you with your marketing at tricycle-creative.com.